Well, this is Elfie, and this is Mrs. Peck, and I'm Debbie, and I'm going to show you how to make her. Now, she could be a child's toy, it could be a doorstop, put a weight in the bottom, like a bag of sand or some rice or barley, or she could just be a rather pretty ornament for your kitchen shelves. Really easy to make. This is how you do it. So for my chicken, I've got 2 squares of fabric. They measure around about 10 inches, perfect squares. I've got a little piece of yellow fabric for a beak. I've already cut out 2 semicircles which are going to be the wings, and from the red felt, and felt's easy to use because it doesn't fray, I'm just going to cut a wattle to go underneath the beak. I think that's what it's called. Oops, so that's like an oval shape, but with a flat bit on the end. Then I'm going to cut the comb for the top of the head. So I'm just kind of guessing this is going to be like little fingers. Just 3 of those. And these are going to be sewn into the seam, so I've made an extra long bit across the bottom there. And then the final bit is going to be the tail, so I'm going to cut an arc. You could draw these first if you wanted to, if you're not so confident with your scissors. And I'm just going to cut like 3 waves, so that's going to be 3 feathers there, like so. And again, because that's going to go into the seam, I'm just going to cut that straight across like that. And that looks a little bit tail-like, I would say. Now the next thing to do is to sew on the wings. And those are just going to go right slap bang in the centre of my square. I'll try and get them both symmetrical on both sides. And I'm just going to sew across the top of those so she can lift her wings up. And I'm going to use a zigzag stitch because you'll see the stitches on here. And I've just done a lock stitch on the end there just to stop my stitch from coming undone. I'll just trim off my thread and then I'll do the same on the other side. Now any decorations or embellishments that you want to put on your chicken should be done now, before you sew the 2 sides together. So maybe you want to pop something like ribbons or buttons or cut out shapes, appliques and things like that. Now's the time you need to do that. Again, I'm just zigzagging across the top. You could sew all the way around if you wanted to. You could, see you off. You could sew some feathers on there. That's it. Not real feathers, obviously, but the shape of feathers maybe onto the wings would look nice. So that's my 2 wings. Then I'm just going to lay the pieces out so I get my bearings as to where's what, and that'll be important. I'll show you that in a second. So the beak's going to go just here, the comb's going to go on the top of the head, and I want it to go right into the corner, but there will be a seam allowance of about 1/4 of an inch, so I'll pop that 1/4 of an inch in. And then the tail's going to go on the other end of the back of my chicken. And for the beak, all I'm going to do is to take my little scrap of yellow fabric, this could be felt, and I'm going to just roll it over a few times like so. And then cut it off, cut the back of it off so it looks like a triangle. And the beak's going to go just here. Then I need to fold them all inwards. And I'm just going to pin in place before I sew the 2 sides together. Making sure that the pins are kept out of the way, of course, of my seam allowance. I don't need to pin the felt. That'll lay itself down. What is this? So I've laid out the tail, the comb and the face area, and then I'm just going to put both sides together. And I'm going to sew around 3 sides and leave the back of it open here. So the side that's opposite the beak is the side that you're going to leave open, because that's going to be the bottom. So I'm just using a straight stitch and sew all the way around. So I backed out right at the beginning, just so that those stitches don't come undone. Line the 2 pieces up. You could pin that if you wanted to. across my wattle. And that's it, it's just underneath the beak. And like so. Just make sure that you catch the beak and the wattle in the stitches as you're going over there. And then down the final side, and this is the one where I have the comb and the tail. So just make sure that those are inside the seams. And just back tap at the end again just to make sure that my stitches don't come undone. Now I'll snip across the corners just so that when I turn that the right way round there's not so much bulk of fabric in there. So let's open this out and turn it the right way round and just make sure that everything's in place. Unpin the beak, there it is, look, there's a little face, there's a comb, wings, tail, and everything's caught into the seam. What I'll need to do now, I'm back inside out again. That seam that you left open, take either side of that and pull it like that, and then with the centre seams joined together I'm just going to sew a little way across the end. So I will hand sew this together after I've stuffed it, and just by sewing a little way across means that I don't have to hand stitch quite such a long stretch of fabric. Right, nearly done. Just turn it the right way round. I'm going to push out the points on the head and on the tummy. Now if you're going to put something heavy in the base of this, like sand, a bag of sand or a bag of rice, you could actually make it into a doorstop. I'm just going to put some wadding in mine, and I tend to use old pillows. If it's something like a toy that you want it to be very, very soft, then I'd go for some toy wadding. But this hollow fibre is perfect, and it's really cheap if you buy it in pillow or cushion form. So I'm just stuffing that in. You can do something like a knitting needle, or I've got a piece of doweling just to make sure that the stuffing goes right into the pointy bits. And then all that's left to do is to sew up the bottom and put the eyes on. Make sure the stuffing goes right into the corners. There we go. Down into the tummy. And in the base there. Then I'm going to use a ladder stitch just to hold those two sides together. So take my thread. So the way that I do it is just to secure my thread with the tail of the thread on the inside of the hole. So I'll just stitch over this a couple of times. And then I'm folding the seam in. It kind of falls naturally like that, to be honest. And a ladder stitch will go in one side and out, the smallest stitches as you can make, and then in the other side and out. in the same kind of way that the stitches from your sewing machine would have sewn this together. And then when you pull the stitches, it closes over the gap and you don't actually see the stitches if you're very neat. So I'll just finish this all the way across and then tie that off at the end. So that's the seam finished across the bottom. The final thing to do is to pop on the eyes. And I like the funny little small beak and tiny eyes, and the eyes are too near to the top of the head and it's all a little bit disjointed. So I'm going to pop just a couple of buttons. Obviously if this is going to be for a child, then buttons wouldn't be such a good idea. And I'm going to sew all the way through the head, because when you pull it tight it gives it a little bit of definition, so I'll try and line that up. The same on the other side. And again, through the button. Then I'm going to go straight back through the same hole and just secure that with the first button. And pull it close together so it makes the head go in a little bit, which I think was a bit silly. Like that. And then to secure here, or to tie it off, take the needle through and underneath the button. I'm just going to wrap the thread around a few times and then do a few stitches over the top of each other behind the button so you don't see where the thread's going. That'll do, that's nice and secure. Snip off the end of my thread and the beginning of my thread. And she's all done.